call to order.
Mr. Alba.
Present.
Ms. Calderon. Here. Mr. DeCosta.
Present.
Ms. Coffinger.
Here.
Mr. Lombardi. Mr. Luna.
Here.
Ms. Ryan. Vice President Dunn. President Gomez.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I seek a motion of closed session, It is hereby moved that the Board of Education adjourn into executive session in accordance with the provisions of the Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231 PL, for the purpose of discussion and consideration of matters pertaining for the following subject, student matter. The minutes of the executive session will be made available to the public and the need for confidentiality no longer exists. I seek a motion to go into close. Stephanie, seconded by John. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, I seek a motion to come out of close. Tony? John? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Board statements. In accordance with the provisions of New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, the New Milford Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Borough Hall and the New Milford Public Library. Notices have been sent to the Record and the Twin Borough News. The board announces that under its long-standing policy, it will not discuss in public any comments made by members of the public concerning individual staff members. At this time, please be advised that all cell phones and electronic devices are to be turned off. Meetings of the board are open to the public and all members of the community should feel free to participate. Before coming to the board, the chain of command should be followed. There are two portions of the meeting reserved for comments from the public. The first at the beginning of the meeting for agenda items only, and the second at the end of the meeting for other items. Issues raised by the public may or may not be responded to by the board, but all comments will be considered. The board requests that all members of the public be mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Due to confidentiality and legal rights afforded by the state of New Jersey, members of the public are asked to not speak negatively or in a derogatory manner about any employee of the board or any student. Recommended action. I seek a motion to approve the minutes for April 8th special, April 23rd work, and April 30th regular. Need a second? Stephanie, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Should we do representation? What do we do? Okay, we have a special presentation for the Elks Peer Leadership Conference. Mrs. Yeager.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to these lovely students. We attended a conference back in February, the New Jersey Elks Peer Leadership Conference, and I want to turn it over to them to speak because I think you'd rather hear from them than me.
Here, do you want? I think if you use
Oh,
this,
It'll work better. There we go.
yeah, this one, the arrows.
Good evening, everyone. So this past February, the New Milford Elks Municipal Alliance funded us 7 students to attend a peer leadership conference in Long Branch, New Jersey. There we had the opportunity to listen to guest speakers, participate in group workshops, and collaborate with other students on ways to improve our school environments. Okay.
I'll go back.
This is our group picture that they do every year. And if you look really closely, you could see us all the way back here. You can't really make us out, but I swear we're there.
So every day at this conference, it was a 3-day conference, like it was the whole weekend. There were specific speakers. I'd say there were about 3 or 4 per day. And here we just highlighted Patrick George, Brandon White, and Craig Giandoli as they were like 3 keynote speakers we found especially like relevant and just impactful. And there were a lot of other speakers. They just gave like 30 to an hour, like 30 to 60 minute speeches every day, and they were truly like emotional, impactful, and just they were driven in our direction, and it was really great to hear.
So the first speaker we're going to talk about is Patrick George, and more relatively about his workshop. Me and Lily both sat down together at his workshop, but by the end of it, we were on total opposite sides of the room because his workshop really helped us to meet and engage with fellow peers and just get the importance of listening to each other. Do you want to speak?
One of the main activities that we did was having conversations with youth people and having different levels of encouragement when they were telling us about something. You were supposed to pretend like you weren't paying attention and then pretend like you were really attentive to see the difference of how it feels to have someone care about what you're saying.
He also had like an activity where we folded it was a pipe cleaner, and we would do it based on like our dreams and aspirations, and he would go around asking people to present their ideas, and the whole room would just like clap for you or like be really proud of you, and it was really impactful that other people took initiative to pay attention to your desires. So the next speaker that we want to talk about is Brandon White, and he was a very motivational speaker. Both his workshop and his speech were both entertaining and inspiring. Though some aspects of his story were dark, they were also very positive. And he did a lot of dancing, and his skills were, as a professional dancer, was used to convey to the students the importance of leadership and empowerment.
The biggest takeaway that he had in his speech, he kept bringing up his key phrase and his key pose, which was like own it, and he had this pose that was like, it was really awkward, but it was, the point of it was that you're supposed to just embrace yourself and not really think about people telling you that you can and can't do something. So he would go around the room. During his workshop, we were talking about different personality types and the positives and negatives of both personality types, and just about how like both personality types, whether you might think one is negative, can affect like your person and make you individual and unique. And that's the whole point of his presentation, was just like being yourself and not worrying about what other people think, which is why he used to talk about how he was a dancer, and that wasn't really like something that people would think he would do, but he liked it and he was good at it.
So Craig is like the main keynote speaker every year. Like usually the speakers at this conference, they like differ annually, but Craig's been going back for I don't know how long, like 10, 11 years or something, and he's considered the most impactful speaker. What really stood out about Craig was like how like emotionally driven and like thought-provoking his speech was. So when we first got there, he was the first speaker, and we actually like missed most of that presentation or most of that speech because we were there late. But like what we first saw was how kids were like taking off their shoes in the room, which we were all like really puzzled by when we first got there. But it was like a symbolic manner. Like he had a lot of things that would be considered like a lot of the strategies for like just communication were very like quirky, or they might seem very obscure. But if you just get to sit in on it like a little more and just take in the atmosphere, it's very like productive. And then me and Christian, and I'm sure a few other members here, went to his small workshop conference where it was very like, kids were bawling, they were like crying, they were just, it was like one of the most impactful speeches I've ever heard. So Craig like grew up in like an abusive household with like an alcoholic mother, and then what like really stood out was he didn't take time to dwell on that misgiving. He just focused on like what himself and others in similar or way different situations can do to further like benefit their future and use these like negative misfortunes that they've been given into this world to just keep going. And like he just really explained that these misgivings didn't define their futures, as he had all of us write down the 3 worst things that ever happened to us on a piece of paper, and then kids could anonymously share, or they could read aloud. Like no one wrote their names on the paper, but then at the end of it, he had us all like pick up and throw the piece of paper across the room to symbolize all these traumas and personal misgivings just going out the window and not defining us.
And just to add on to that, I think one of the things that makes him most impactful for our students is he's from this area. He went to Paramus Catholic High School. So a lot of the things he's talking about, we understand that area because we're from here.
So in fixed mindset, this trip introduced new ways to navigate obstacles of life by allowing us to embrace the environment with an open mind. Each presentation was a deeply personal story, such as Craig's and Brandon's, that was used to show students that life doesn't follow a linear progression. We need to handle the ups and downs with grace and empathy.
Perspective. Being surrounded by like-minded individuals was a great opportunity to expand our perspective, learn from our peers, and examine our own lives and school environments through a new lens.
For mental growth, first of all, mental growth is like one's cognitive abilities and emotional intellect. And this was my second year going along with Lily. And each time I feel like that I've been at the conference and gotten home, that I grew maturely and I came back like a whole new person by hearing different speakers and meeting with different students. And our personal perspectives of these speakers really shaped like the mindset that we bring to school, and how they talked about their personal struggles and the growth of people who've overcome all kinds of like obstacles in their lives. Really is a topic not mentioned much in like school and like student environments, and just being able to be around many students who came together at the end collaboratively to make a change in their schools was really the big part of the mental growth aspect.
So our peer leadership objective, from this experience, we want to take away what we learned and implement it into our school. As peer leaders, we aim to encourage healthy relationships and positive communication between peer-to-peer and peer-to-teacher connections. We also want to,
I think one of the biggest things I took away personally was just that from the conference itself, everybody who was there really wanted to be there. They wanted to engage in the activities. And obviously that's not something that's easy to incorporate in a place like this, where not everyone's going to want to participate in this stuff. But I think it would be really cool if we could like do a mock workshop of some sort, because I know when I went to the conference, I really didn't think I was going to hear some of the stuff that I did. I didn't think it was going to be as deep as it was. And then I came out of some of those workshops, and it sounds cliche, but I really did feel like I was changed because of some of the stuff that I heard. And I think it would be really cool if we could do that.
So now to end this off on a very positive note, we'll go into the highlights of the peer leadership conference and some of the things that I personally took away, which started with meeting new people. This is a photo from 3 days. These are people that we've met from our rooms, from breakfast, from games, from workshops, activities. And having this opportunity to network with other like-minded students who are also leaders is especially important, because you see such a wide array of perspectives from North Jersey, Central Jersey. You see their lives, and these are people who really want to show up. These are people who really want to provide more for their communities, more for their families, and more for their schools. So that's really important. And definitely learning, as Luke said before, hearing about Craig's story and hearing about the stories of other individuals was extremely powerful, and that's not really something that you can ever get out of a video ever. That's not really something you can see in a TED Talk, because being there and seeing people get emotional, seeing people cry and get forgiven and rise and get this new confidence is something that really impacted me personally. And of course, everybody can take something from this peer leadership conference when they're learning. And also, finally, growing closer together as a group. This is one of our peer leadership games and activities that they would do in between lunch and between breakfast. And in the beginning of this, I didn't think I was going to get closer to you guys as I have now. I thought I was only going to talk to Luke, but it really got me out of my comfort zone. It really got me to get interested into people that I see every day. And I think even although we're in similar classes, I never would have connected as much otherwise. And finally, we go into takeaways and things that we can apply to our own schools and our own communities, right? Starting with bringing impactful guest speakers to our school, like Craig and Lori Hayes, which was not mentioned in one of the 3 speakers, but was also very impactful. Bringing speakers like Craig into our school can give an insight into peer leadership conferences, into the world of leadership, and I think you'd be a really important guest speaker to have. And also potentially organizing mock conferences, as I know Alexandra said before. A school-wide day of workshops would also go together with this and provide an almost similar experience for all students in New Milford High School who are willing to to learn more, to try and become leaders in their own communities. And finally, spreading peer leadership activism and trips. This trip was extremely individual to me because there's a lot more freedom, and I understand with most trips there has to be a lot of safety precautions, but with this trip there was a lot of safety, there was a lot of adults and guardians who were able to provide us with a safe atmosphere where we could really open up whilst also being in a safe environment with these students, right? And it was also combined with the freedom that we were given. We were given the opportunity late at night to either go dance, line dance, to go play board games, and being given these opportunities was very freeing because it also prepares us for what it's going to be like in college, meeting new people, networking with new people, making your own decisions as an individual, especially in high school, is really important. And finally, I'd like to thank the Elks community for paying for this trip. It must have been really expensive, and they were able to provide us 7 with the opportunity, the special opportunity to go to the Peer Leadership Conference. And connecting with the Elks community is really important because they were a group that I've never even heard about before. You know them, they're on River Road right next to the borough. And I had my own birthday there, and I didn't know that they're a community that provides service and activism and just overall community service. And it's really important to start reaching out to the Elks community and start collaborating with them in New Milford High School. And that's it. Thank you.
But I just have a comment for you guys. I thought that was an excellent presentation, and you can see your leadership ability in the way you presented. And I feel like your presentation, I connected with it, and you hit I was going to say that it's going to prepare you for college, the way you went through this conference and the decisions you made. So excellent presentation. I'm glad you guys got the opportunity, and I hope you get a mock conference in our own district.
Go ahead, Jim.
Can you go back to the last slide with the Elks logo on it? So I have a question for anybody there. You'll notice on the logo in the background, there's a clock, and it's set to 11 o'clock. Does anybody know why?
Joe does.
I do. But I'm going to ask all of you guys to go look it up tonight and find out. I was an elk a long time
Now you
ago.
have homework.
It's actually, it goes in hand with what you guys were talking about, that you learned at the workshop, but that's something that's very special in like elk lore, kingdom, or whatever. Like, I was an elk for a very short time, a long time ago, but it's pretty special.
Did you get thrown out?
I did not. What actually had happened, to be frank with you, is I moved to North Carolina, and that was like 15 years ago, and then I moved back like a year later, but that was like kind of when my membership lapsed, and I just kind of didn't ever read them. But it's pretty interesting. Look up what the hour of 11 is.
Well, I didn't anticipate you getting homework, but the interesting thing is you can walk right outside and with your cell phones, just Google it. You know, and I like extensive homework. I do want to thank you for making this presentation. It's my understanding that you kind of sought us out and wanted to present because you were moved so much. So that is exactly what we're looking for in education. You know, I'm a big quote guy, and you feel like that quote, like knowledge is power, but like connecting with knowledge is power. And so you connected with this material, it definitely changed your lives, you're definitely stronger for it. And some things you pointed out in there, like simple things like paying attention to people. What a novel concept, right? But it'll make them feel great. So I thank you for doing it, Ms. Yeager. I thank you for, you know, helping them through this process. I would encourage you, you talked about bringing Mr. Craig and Ms. Lorian. I would encourage you to talk to Ms. Zacher.
We already have.
Good. Mr. Manapelli, Ms. Odoxia, with title funds possibly, you know, to try to make that happen. If you are passionate about it, don't let it die when you walk out the door and Google 11. I want you to kind of pursue this, okay? You are leaders in this building, and if you can continue to grow the leadership and we get more leaders and impact kids, that's exactly what we want. So now it's in your court, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you again.
Thank you. it in the building at 11 o'clock?
Yes.
Just give you a couple turns.
Would you like to take on this?
Sure.
I'll take it right here. I forgot to print it. Thank you.
First, are there notes on it?
Now we're going to do our annual budget presentation, State of the District Address. Mr. Galasso.
Thank you all for being here tonight. We do have a lot to talk about. I'm going to go through everything as specifically as I can and try to explain to the best of my ability so you understand kind of where we're at. So the superintendent's report, I saw this quote. I immediately thought of my wife and then I thought of Milford. The secret to budgeting is that it needs to be honest. Not what you think it should be or wish it could be, but what it really is. And so that's how we have to approach our budget. There are things that I wanted before I even accepted this job. There are things that Stephanie and I and Lauren talk about all the time, things that we would love to have, but sometimes it's not reality. And so we have to constantly bring ourselves back to reality and move forward from that. So anticipated expenditures for the 25-26 school year came in at $1.8 million over budget for the following reasons. And what that means is we have to balance a budget, just like you have to balance your checkbook, or you used to have to balance a checkbook. If we're spending $50 million, we have to bring in $50 million. It is illegal for us to do anything else because we are monitored by the county and then the state. All right. So third year in a row of double-digit increase in benefits. Health benefits is probably one of the biggest expenditures going up every single year. And we have to budget for double-digit increases, so over 10%. And this has been year after year after year. And when you're at $10 million approximately in benefits, and you have to budget 10%, and it may be more than that, it might be 17%, it might be 12%, you have to, that's $1 million that you have to find, that we have to come up with. Cuts in state aid have been for years in a row, including this year. Inability to borrow any more from future budgets, so basically taking what we gain and just applying it and moving it forward. And then less revenue coming into the district overall. So we have to make up for all this. So when this happens, we have to make difficult decisions. So a balanced budget. So there's the actual budget, $50,211,018, and that has to equal the expenditure. So budget reductions, immediately we started with pretty much going over every single line item in every single area of the budgets. So building-based budgets, every principal met with Stephanie and I, the athletic director, the technology director, building and grounds, curriculum, transportation. We met with everybody and went line by line to see what is expendable and not expendable. And Lauren can vouch for this. She was an active participant in this, and I thank you because her budget took a big hit, and we're trying to figure out ways to replenish that as well. But it definitely took a team approach and people giving their input of how we can get through this. The harder one is the staffing reductions, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, but there's pretty much three types. There's a non-renewal due to economy and efficiency, meaning that we non-renew a staff member, we just don't replace it because we feel that, we can live without it in some way. There's abolishment of positions, which means that position, we feel like we can or have to live without it. We have to make cuts somewhere, so that position just completely goes away. And then there's reductions from full-time to part-time. So you will see, we kind of went through this menagerie to balance the budget. All reductions were designed to have a minimal direct impact on our students, so I want to explain that as well. On our students, there's direct impact and indirect impact. So direct impact is we cut 12 teachers and class sizes go up to 28 to 30. That's a direct impact, like the kids directly feel it. Indirect impact is the students necessarily won't see it or feel it, but it's there, and that's an indirect impact. So when we talk about custodians or secretaries or administration, like, trust me, things are hurting on our end, but again, it's to shelter the kids from any direct impact. So keep that in mind, because that was a strong belief of ours on my whole team, was how can we reduce direct impact in every way possible. So the following positions are being abolished. And let me say this about this whole situation. So I've done this on a micro level as a principal. I've never done this at this level. There were so many positions. I met with all but one or two, and that was important for me because cutting people on paper is much different than cutting them in person. So when sitting with these individuals, and they all vented in their own way, some with grace, some not so much with grace, but they deserve that time to vent and keep that connection of this is not just someone on paper. This is someone who has a family, who might need benefits, who is a single mom, who has 2 years to retirement, all different scenarios that were shared with me and my team, and we were very patient to go through it. So that was really important. Anytime we make decisions that change trajectories of lives, I'm big into that. These decisions change the trajectory of people's lives and their families. So that is not lost on me at all, especially when you hear their stories. So I don't want you to think that this is made of just, these decisions are made with just haphazardly. A lot of thought goes into these, and it's just something that we have to do. I also want to point out that these people, where the positions are being abolished or non-renewed because of economy and efficiency, it's not performance related. It's kind of wrong place, wrong time. Unforeseen circumstances that we could not predict. But I want to emphasize it's not performance related. So with that being said, 2 administrative assistants, 1 custodian, 3 teachers, 5 instructional assistants, 1 specialist, and 2 administrative positions. You can see there too, we did not just hammer just teachers, or just secretaries, or just custodians, or just eliminate 30 aides. We hit across the board, from administration to paras to administrative assistants. So everyone feels it. There's not one aspect of the school district that did not feel this. There's not one aspect that is sheltered from this. So that was important as well, because I'm a true believer in that in difficult times, if we're all in it together, we will all rise up together. The following positions are also being reduced: 2 custodians, full-time to part-time, and 6 administrative assistants, 0.8 to 0.75. These decisions were made so that there was minimal direct impact on students. So no programmatic cuts, meaning sports stayed whole, the arts, the musical arts stayed whole, electives, educational programs, clubs, extracurricular, and class sizes remain consistent with what they are this year by shuffling around teachers. That was very, very important to us, because that, you cut any of those, it directly and negatively impacts students. So we will kind of, in the shadows, take the impact and let the students be. So for the 25-26 school year, I would love to say that I can guarantee bright times in the future in terms of budget. I will not do that. We will take what it comes. We are already working on ideas of how we can still continue to focus on efficiency prior to having to get to cuts. So maybe next year this doesn't have to happen. We are auditing all schedules to ensure we are maximizing staff, custodial, instructional assistants, specialists, speech, OT, PT. We even reached out to other professionals and specialists from other districts to compare our schedules to theirs so we could get ideas. We are mapping out like simply custodian square footage and how we can maximize that. We're also parsing out administrative responsibilities such as observations, professional development, building coverage, benchmarking, and assessments. And we will all share in this. It's really important too to understand that we are trying to become as efficient as possible, but adjustments may have to be made. And if cutting a full-time custodian doesn't work, or 5 additional aides or IEPs change, there might have to be changes, we might have to adapt moving forward into next year. Because this is a living district. This is not just on paper, we can cut it and then move on. Things change all the time, especially in the special education world. Future fiscal responsibility, it's important that we continue to audit each area of the district to identify where we can be more efficient. This includes transportation, special education staffing, building-based budgets, outside providers, and vendors as well. And hopefully, we have our eyes on some low-hanging fruit, hopefully, and hopefully we can get where we want to be. So now I'm going to turn it over to Steph. Give you the power to...
Thank you. So like Mr. Glasser said, the increase in the state health benefits being so large for the 3rd year in a row, we had to anticipate that it was going to increase again. We've also had several of our employees change from a direct 10 or 15 plan to a lesser plan with the introduction of Chapter 44, and so the employees are now paying a percentage of their salary instead of a percentage of the premium, which is a larger share for the board to now pick up. So that's really impacting the budget. This is the 3rd year in a row that we've lost state aid. The previous 2 years, the first year, they gave us a one-time payment that we can use in that budget. The second year, it was a little bit less. And then this year, I'll talk about it in a little bit, there's something called tax levy incentive aid, which offsets some of this, not all of it. But as you lose state aid every year, that's money that you can never get back. So we're operating with less money than we were 3 years ago in terms of state aid. And then obviously the aging facilities and the monies that we have to continue to put into the facilities to make the building efficient. We did the boilers, we're still paying, we did a direct install program, so that's being paid off still. So there's facility improvements that we've done, but their financial impact has not rolled off yet. So we're still absorbing some of those costs. The following are areas of the budget that we've reduced. We reduced transportation quite a bit, and the idea about what we're going to do there is we're going to take some non-public aid and loop costs and have our bus drivers and buses transport them. We have every driver has 3 routes every day. We have routes triple tiered right now. We're going to try to add a 4th route to them, and so our bus drivers are incredible, and they're always, if the driver's out, they're covering each other. We are constantly making changes, and the bus drivers are always willing to do whatever we're asking them, and that is sort of invaluable to us because that's the way that we're getting a lot of money back. And so now we're adding non-public students that are being transported, so that's just another level of the complexity of our transportation in district. Various supplies were cut, the technology budget, we worked closely and we did some creative things that we were able to reduce that budget significantly for next year. And then the custodial overtime, so we're going to be really mindful about what we're doing after school hours, and if outside organizations are using our facilities, we're going to really stay on top of charging them because the district just cannot absorb the costs of all the overtime anymore. Thankfully, we haven't had too much bad weather in the winter, and so we were able to reduce that based on a 5-year look back. I mean, next winter will probably be terrible because that's an area that we rolled the dice to see if we can get through it. Capital reserve is monies from prior budgets. It's essentially like a savings account, and it cannot be used for anything other than capital improvements. And all of that is tied into your long-range facility plan, which is approved by the state, and everything needs to tie back to that. And so the area that we identified to have capital improvements for is the high school cafeteria. It's single pane windows. Last summer we did all of the roofs, so all of the roofs in district are now good. We're no longer leaking anywhere, and so now we're trying to protect our assets and sort of chipping away at a bigger issue of aging facilities. And so we're trying to do what we can, and we identified the high school cafeteria as an area that's used by not only the high school every day for various programs, but the community uses it, the athletics use it for their dinners, the performing arts uses it, the fall drama. It's used by so many different groups, and so we thought that was a good sort of area to target and get new windows. Mr. Galasso talked about the reduction in staffing, and then the last one is pretty interesting. We've had, as part of the audit every year, we keep getting a recommendation that we have too much money and a surplus in the cafeteria account, and that was because the USDA subsidized a lot of the cafeteria food during COVID, and because we're part of the National School Lunch Program, it's not profitable. And so you're only allowed to carry a certain amount of money in the cafeteria account. And so as a way to reduce the cafeteria account, we are charging lunch supervision. That means any of our lunch aides and our teachers who cover lunch are being charged there. And typically that's something that's funded locally. And so in the future, this is gonna have to come back locally, because once we deplete the cafeteria fund, we still need lunch supervision. So we need to focus on that coming back. This is a breakdown of where our revenues come from. Obviously, the biggest one is the local tax levy. The tuition from other LEAs, which are other school districts, we budgeted $1 million, which is more money than we're taking in this year. So we need to find students who need a placement in special education programs, and we do have seats that are open in various levels, and so we're pretty confident. We have a few that are coming in. I think we have about 5.
The Director of Special Services is already working on it, and she has connections, and we are bringing in like intakes to interview the kids and the families and see if it's a good fit for us. Because listen, as much as we want tuition, the child has to be a good fit for us and meet the needs of our district and what we can support.
And that obviously means as we take students in, we're also spending money on educating those students as well. So we want to make sure that it's something that fits within what we're looking to do. The transportation from other LEAs, that is, we have a shared transportation to go to Bergen Tech, Bergen Academies, and the Imparamus Tech, and then the Teterboro one. And so we transport Bergen Field, Dumont, Riverdale, Cresskill, and Tenafly students, and then they pay us a portion of the route. We're also looking to, because we're reducing our transportation that we send out to bid, we're also contacting all surrounding districts to see if they're also sending students to out-of-district placements where we're going, and we'll pick up their students. And so then they'll pay us, because it's cheaper for us to do their transportation a lot of the time than it is for them to bid it out and have a vendor like Scholastic or one of them. So that's what that line is. And then the budgeted fund balance is what Mr. Galasso was talking about earlier, when we can't continue to take money from prior years to fund future year budgets. That's a $1.5 million revenue, and so we're offsetting our budget with monies that have not been used from prior years. And I know that the budget is not, we're not saving that money anymore. And we cannot sustain having that much money to continue to fund our future budgets. The other place that we reduced was the federal funding. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about what's going to happen with federal funding. We've been told so far that it's not going to affect next year, but with the reduction specifically in the curriculum budget, a lot of that is offset by title money, which is federal funding, and so a lot of that money would have been spent locally is now being charged to federal funding. This is just a graphic to show you how big the tax levy is. And then this is our spending by how much money we spend sort of by category. But if you break it down just simply by percentages, over 50% of the budget goes to salaries alone. Health benefits is about 20%. And then the 5% is between general ed tuition, which is to Bergen County Academies, Bergen Tech, and then the special education tuition is out of district tuition placements. That's 75% of your budget right there. And then when you look at the insurance, at about 4%, that's the umbrella policies and coverages, buildings and grounds, and so forth. So once you're done with the big expenditures, there's really not so much left for supplies, consumables, stuff to sort of keep the school running. And then this is the tax levy incentive program. So since I've been here, we've never had changes to a tentative budget after it's been submitted. This is the first year that we're proposing to make changes to the tentative budget. On April 8th, the Board of Education held a special meeting and they approved the submission of the tax levy incentive program. And what this allows us to do is increase the tax levy by $108,484. And then the tax levy incentive portion is only $5,424. And that's just a one-time state aid, $5,000. We have not received approval yet, and so this is all pending NJDOE approval of the tax levy incentive aid. So should we be granted the aid, we would increase the local tax levy by that $132,000. And then we would also increase the revenues by the $5,424, and the same thing would happen on the expenditure side, so we would have a balanced budget, but we are proposing to put that into the out-of-district tuitions because we know we are currently have a few unbudgeted out-of-district tuitions before the year has even started, and so that money we're proposing to allocate it in that budget line.
Steph, can I say one thing real
Sure.
quick? So with that tax levy incentive program, it was only offered to 8 districts in the county. So if that puts you into perspective, where we kind of are with our budget right now, in the county, 8 were offered, 4 went through with it because the mountain of paperwork and hoops you have to jump through to get it. But we feel that, you know, just an increase of $100-something thousand on that base will help us in the future as well. So I think that's important to understand, like 8 districts were offered it, 4 are taking it up in the whole entire county. So that's the situation we're in.
And part of that, what you had to do was spend any adjustment that you had. And so we had a little bit of money in banked cap that we had to use, and we had the healthcare adjustment that we had to use, but that was already part of the tentative budget. The school budget tax impact to the average assessed home is about $22, and for every $100,000, it's about $3.50 increase in the taxes. And then here's a student created.
Yeah. So we had students go around with Mr. Animal, the high school teacher, as part of a little project that they did, and just, I guess it's an annual thing now, it's like a ceremonial thing, that the kids make a video, so this is their video this year. Good job.
Empowering, welcoming,
energetic, unique, motivational, enlightening,
uplifting,
influential, bold,
connected,
engaging, energetic, amazing, diverse.
I love being the principal of Berkeley Street School. It really is an honor and a privilege to be a part of young children's educational journey. I feel blessed to work with such a dedicated and committed and effective staff. Everyone here has the same values. We love our children. We want them to feel like they're home, away from home when they're with us. We care about their social and emotional well-being because we believe that's how they do their best academic work. And I feel that Berkeley is a place that lets me do my best work.
The most exciting thing that's happened this school year is actually happening this evening. It's our very first annual international night, and it's an opportunity for all of our community to come together and really celebrate our diverse cultures and backgrounds that make BF Gibbs a wonderful community. Okay, so we were just doing morning meeting. Morning meeting is all about building a sense of community, the kids getting to know one another and really being there and having a good time together. What you just saw was our greeting and our share. So we have morning meeting every single day. The kids share an answer to a question or a little bit about themselves. They greet each other, and then that leads into our group activity where they all take part in one big thing as a class.
It's really just trying to help all of my staff and the students here and being a listening ear for them and just trying to help us and myself grow on a daily basis and seeing, you know, how many different sort of perspectives we can take in and giving our middle schoolers the ability to have perspective and see things from a different point of view is really one of the things that I love and my main goal as a participant in this community.
6th grade code. And what we do is we start the year off with learning problem solving and how to do problem solving for everyday simple problems. And then they go into learning about parts of the computer, input, output, storage and processing. And they end that unit with developing their own application for like a cell phone. And then we move into the fun part of coding where they start learning how to use code.org, and unit 3 is the game design. So they start with the locations of sprites, and then they move on to like creating the sprites, and we end up with making several different types of games: a scrolling game, a flying game, and a couple of other like animated scenes.
Very proud of that in Milford High School and the 24-25 school year. We have a lot to be proud of. Everything from our students in the classroom achieving academically to our student athletes like the state championship wrestling team, to our wonderful musicals this year that we were able to provide for our students. So we do the wide range from artistic expression to academic achievement to athletic success. It's what really makes Milford High School really stand out. And beyond all of that, who's responsible for that is my wonderful teaching and coaching staff that brings it all together to create a really family-like environment here at Milford High School. So I want to thank Mr. Anwalt and the crew for giving me the opportunity to share with you today.
Being a history teacher is a great thing. It's we have a really good department here in Milford. We have a lot of really good teachers, and I find that we have students who love history, who hate history, who are different to history, and I think it's really cool to work with students who come from varied backgrounds, both in their lives but also in their love. And it's a great thing to try to bring that love to students, to get them to understand how much bigger the world is beyond just themselves or this building. And what's going on in the world today, how history is repetitive, the good, the bad, the ugly. I think they're all really good things, and I don't think I would want to teach anything else than what I do right now.
I think right from the beginning when I started teaching here, the one thing that stands out the most is that New Milford is always there to support. So when families are in need, when situations happen and we need a community to support and embrace that individual or that family, they're always there to step up and help. And we're blessed to have a community like that.
I like how diverse the community is and how how the community is very they communicate very well with each other. There's always they're friendly? Yeah, very friendly.
I like the amounts of opportunities there are for New Milford. And I like the teachers and how they are very helpful with things that are hard and troubling for me.
The most memorable moment is probably when I hit my 1,000 points in basketball. Very, very memorable.
Version 7, so they were very patient with me going back and back and back and back, which is part of kind of working for a boss. So they got that experience, which is great, and even better, Mr. Anwalt is already next year, and is already coming up with ideas, which is pretty neat.
That's everything. Do you have any questions? Anybody?
Okay.
If there's no questions.
Age doesn't have any?
No.
I do. Do I have to stand up?
No, you can just.
Okay, my name is Kendra Moore. I live in the Milford for 20 years. I understand your position, Mr. Galasso. I just want to clarify, these people are employed and you had to let them go because of the budget. Is that what you were saying?
Correct.
Okay. And I guess I understand the process of bringing children with special needs because it creates revenue, meaning that those schools will pay to utilize our system. I guess my follow-up question is, I understand, you know, how you have to make cuts and things like that, but I think the paras are so important for children with special needs. I have a child that learns different. So I guess I wonder if we onboard, it's not like it was only 5, so maybe it may not make a difference, but if we onboard more kids, wouldn't that para kind of play a role with children with special needs? I don't know if you understand
No, I
where I'm
understand what
coming
you're saying.
from.
So if we onboard kids from another district, like
Okay.
we do have children from, at least one child from another district who has a para.
They come with that.
We don't
Okay.
pay for that, we don't pay for that para anymore.
It's all part of the tuition that we receive in.
Got
So the full
it.
cost to educate any student who we're bringing in who's not a New Milford resident, we charge their home district the full cost of educating. So whatever needs come with that student, even if it's a nurse, we would charge for the nurse. If it's a para, a one-to-one, a classroom shared, whatever it is, we have a breakdown, we charge them.
Okay, that makes sense, because I was trying to understand the losing of paras with bringing on children that would need paras, so that makes sense.
I want to make clear too, I mean, at one point during this year, because IEPs fluctuate, we had over 80 paras in this district working with children, which is a large number.
Okay.
And then when Dr. Perot retired, she made recommendations, because we've been having this discussion for months and months and months and months about, you know, how we're going to tackle these finances. And I think it's important to understand that we have to use everything very efficiently. And when we talk about bringing in tuition students, I don't want anybody to misunderstand. And Stephanie said, if we have seats,
right.
You know, if there's no seats, we're not just, you know, putting them in classrooms and overpopulating our classrooms. Like, we have programs with defined numbers, and if we, because kids graduate or kids move, or the best thing is when kids grow out of the program that they were in, and, you know, and get into the gen ed setting, and it leaves a seat open, that would be an opportunity.
You know, I just wanted to clarify it, but that makes sense, they're coming with what they need for their education. And then the ESY, do we know when we'll know more details for that for the summer? Like when you're trying to plan where your kids would go,
So
they don't
shortly.
know where, what school, what the hours are, things like that is important because school is only a month,
Yeah.
what is it, 6 weeks? So we
So-
have to kind of know where we're gonna put our
So it's
kids.
going to be very similar to last year, if not exactly the same for this year. Mrs. Horn just took over 2 weeks ago, and so before Mrs. Horn got here. the new
Miss
director-
Horgan?
Mrs. Horn. So,
Oh,
no, not Horgan, I know she's.
I was like, yay.
No, she's a teacher, I know you like Miss Horgan. Mrs. Horn is our new Director of Special Services.
Oh, okay,
So
I
she
met
just
her.
started 2 weeks ago, but before her, we already advertised for the positions, kind of had the program in mind, and now it's just bringing everything together. Because when we fund our ESY program, we have to hire a lot of staff. It's definitely not a small program. It's across 3 buildings. It's all encompassing. So we have a new Director of Special Services working with the case managers now, going through IEPs, and should finalize everything shortly, and then you will be contacted. But I will bring that up to Mrs. Horn as well, just so she knows, but it's on her radar.
Okay.
I think, if I could just say one other thing about the budget, I think it's important to understand too that we're making our best prediction for basically a year out. Like this budget starts from July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. And when we have these conversations, it starts in December of the prior year is when the whole budget process begins. And it culminates now when we pass a final budget, but the preliminary budget happens in March. And so when you're talking about things that happen from March even to June, before you even get to the budget, a lot of things change. And so that's why this is our sort of our best guess of how we can run the district for the next year.
And I just hope the community, Ms. Essman, I see you back there, she represents the teachers union, Ms. Auerbach, and obviously Ms. Page, that I just hope you see we did our due diligence and we tried to impact the kids as little as possible and cut from all areas, not just one area. So I just appreciate the feedback from Ms. Essman and the teachers and the union, the feedback from the administration, how to make this work. I mean, it is a village and everybody's going to be impacted, and I know the principals will do a great job showing up. The teachers will do a great job showing up. All the support staff will do a great job and keep showing up. Another aspect of this is, though, when you cut people, you're also cutting friends of people. And I worry about how it impacts the culture of the school. And so that is not lost on me as well. And I just appreciate the support and, ideas and just the patience in how we move forward. And hopefully we get this district in a stronger point in the next year or two. And these budget presentations will be a lot more fun if that happens.
Do you use a criteria to cut? Like how do you know where to start or end?
So it's all different.
Okay.
Sometimes it's based on contract with some people have seniority and bumping rates, other times that does not happen. Sometimes it's skill based, sometimes it's who's certified, not certified.
Got it.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I don't have a question, I do have a comment though. I just wanted to say that I know that this was not an easy budget to prepare, and I know that difficult decisions were made. It's another budget where we lost a lot of money and had to make difficult choices. But I think of all of the presentations that I've seen so far as a board member, this one was probably one of the most thoughtful and thorough ones that we've had so far. So I just wanted to thank you, all of you, for your work. It's very much appreciated, and I just wanted to let you guys know that.
Thank you. No, we're transparent. I promise you we'll be as transparent as possible so you can see where we're coming from and why we make decisions. I think that's important. So you trust us that we're making, the best decisions we can moving forward.
And thank you for the not direct impact on the students.
So I don't have a lot of questions because I'm the chair of finance and chair of negotiations, so I think that's strategic so that I don't ask a lot of questions. I know a lot of the answers, right? I do want to say that I've been on the board of ed now, this is my 4th year. I've not had a good budget presentation yet, meaning like not one that's not like upsetting, right? Because of the trend that we're dealing with as far as financing, as far as funding and all those things. But I will say, having worked with everybody, the administration here, Lauren, Pete, and Stephanie, they worked extremely hard to do everything in a thoughtful, diligent way. We have, hours and hours of negotiations, meetings, hours and hours of, the finance stuff, and, a lot of the things that you see here, we come in here and we vote yes on these things during the meetings, but it doesn't account for like the hours of like thoughtful just work that everybody here does. And I can tell you that I think I speak to Stephanie sometimes more than some of my best friends because I make her do so many numbers for me. But I do appreciate how thoughtful you guys were, how much you care about the students, how much I know that you lose sleep doing this, and so much so that I appreciate your word of, that you're changing trajectories of lives, right? Like you appreciate that, whether it's for the students, especially for the teachers and for the administrative staff that are not coming back. I just want to thank you guys because I know, having seen kind of how the sausage is made, it is not for the faint of heart at all. And you do it, every year. So, just want to kind of, appreciate what you guys are doing with the district.
Thank you. I couldn't do it without everybody, very important. And your support as well. That does not go unnoticed.
Okay. If no one else has any questions or comments, we're going to move forward, okay? So Superintendent of Schools report, Mr. Galasso, do you have a report on top of that?
I do. I do have to do a couple housekeeping things. Under board action, approve the April 2025 HIV report. So in Milford High School, there's 4 HIV 338 forms submitted. 2 HIVs were not forwarded under principal determination. And then 2 HIVs were investigated by the ABS. All allegations of HIV were unfounded. Actually, that's 3 because I added the last one. So 3 HIVs were investigated by the ABS. All allegations of HIV were unfounded, as they did not meet the criteria. DEO, there was 1 HIV 338 form submitted, and 1 HIV investigated by the ABS. The allegation of HIV was unfounded. In Berkeley and Gibbs, there were no HIV 338 forms submitted. Approval of the April suspension report. New Milford High School, one student was suspended for a total of 6 days. One certain student served 2 days of in-school suspension and 4 days of out-of-school suspension. DEO, middle school trends, we talked about it last month too. 10 students were suspended for a total of 14 days. 8 students each served 1 day of in-school suspension. 2 students each served 3 days of out-of-school suspension. Berkeley and Gibbs, 0 students were suspended last month. There was a couple other things that I just want to explain on the agenda. We have to form an affirmative action team to basically look at all our policies and make sure we're not violating any, it's called a comprehensive equity plan, that we're not violating anybody's rights. Our hiring practices are sound, professional development is sound. So we have to actually form a team with the affirmative action officer, audit over 24 policies, and make sure we have them and that they're up to date, and then do a board resolution, which is coming in June, and get it back to the county. So that's on there to form this team that will, they've already started, to be honest with you, but just to get that resolution. What else do I want to talk about here? Personnel appointments. So you can see we have 2 bus aides coming on board. Do not forget about the bus aides. The bus aides, and Stephanie can attest, can make our lives miserable if we do not have bus aides, because then we have to get coverage riding the bus. It throws everything off. So thank you for coming on to the 2 new bus aides, and it's going to help us out a lot. I'd also like to point out Isabella Otero. We are hiring her in the middle school as a special education teacher. She has a very bright future. She's a New Milford alumni, and whenever we are in an interview and she drops Mayor Petrino's name, that was pretty funny. Obviously we know Mayor Petrino. Really good interview, well dressed, stood up straight, made eye contact, articulate, just everything you want to see in a young teacher. All the aspirations, the goals, the change the world attitude, and so that is what we want. And she has a bright future because she's also pursuing a math certificate as well, which is very, very important. As far as district happenings, so I went to my first flag football game. It was very fun. It was in the pouring rain on Monday. Not a huge crowd. These girls have a lot of fun. And Mr. Riccadelli did a great job, and they weren't complaining about the rain too much. They won with like 30 seconds left. They scored a touchdown, got the 1-point conversion. Then Hawthorne drives all the way down the field, scores a touchdown to make it 7-6, and then failed on the 2-point conversion. They dropped the football, and that was it. But it might as well have been the Super Bowl. It was wonderful. So that was great to see. And continuing with the awards that New Milford receives from out-of-district stuff, we now won the New Jersey Water Environment Association statewide middle school essay contest about recycling, wastewater, and treatment. I had never really heard of this, but Sebastian Kamaj won 2nd place for the North Section schools and will receive $100. He also won runner-up for the overall statewide competition and will receive $100, so he'll get $200. Check made out to him. And then Elise Yoro won runner-up for the North Section schools and will receive $50. So these are kids outside of our, things outside. So it's not just us judging them and saying, yeah, you're doing pretty good. It's other people judging them as well and being like, they're pretty good. So it that makes us happy. Upcoming events, May 9th is Pebney Scholarship Barbecue. May 13th is the Senior Academic Awards, which is competing against, also on May 13th, Bergen County Suicide Symposium. May 15th is the New Milford High School Junior Prom, and May 16th, very curious about what this is going to be like, the New Milford High School Buddy Talent Show. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions, comments? Okay, Assistant Superintendent Report, Lorna Doxa.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Just an update, we're in the midst of end-of-year planning as we approach the end of the school year. I recently had a non-public consultation meeting where I met with our friends from Havanian, Solomon Schechter, and St. Joseph School. We talk about the spending of federal funding for next school year, as the LEA is responsible for overseeing and making sure that it's aligned with allowable uses. So that planning has begun and it's well underway. The schools are in the process of developing the Title I annual school-wide plans. We're pulling a lot of data, looking at identifying needs, and thinking about how we want to strategically use our funding to support some of the things that might look a little bit different next school year. So that's all in advance of the submission of our grant. We have not yet received the allocations for next school year. Those allocations would be for all of the titles, and we anticipate receiving that towards the end of June. I'll update you as I learn more. We've been having a lot of conversations and meetings, teachers and administrators, and really looking at, we're being really thoughtful in reflecting on the professional learning that we've engaged in during the school year, and we're thinking about how we can be creative in supporting the continued growth of our faculty and staff for next school year. We know there's a direct correlation between professional learning and student achievement, so we want to continue to support that, and we will do so in a creative way. We're looking at our map for the school year. We're looking at creating our calendars. We're tweaking our scopes and sequences and adjusting our pacing so that we can come back in September and really hit the ground running. We're also in the midst of NJSLA testing. The testing window runs through May 23rd, and makeups will take place May 27th through the 30th. I'm sure everyone will be relieved when we reach that finish line. And I will do a formal presentation in one of our upcoming board meetings, but we did receive our NJGPA results, which are the New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment results all of our juniors take to determine whether or not they are graduation ready. And we did, I'll just throw a little teaser, we had significant gains in math with a 6.7% increase in the number of students who were deemed graduation ready. So I'd like to thank all of our teachers of math, all of our elementary teachers who also teach math, and Ms. Ginley for all of their efforts this school year. It's made a lasting impact, and we are very grateful. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. Business Administrator Report, Stephanie Kuchar.
Good evening. My report for tonight is tomorrow it's supposed to be pouring rain, I believe, and we're going to be up on the roof with the rod grant. So the inspector will be there.
It's good though.
They're really testing, right?
Let's see if there's leaks.
It'll be a good test. Guess what we suck.
Doesn't leak, maybe one.
Yeah, it'll be fun. You want to come up?
I will wear certain clothes.
Yeah. Party on the roof to make sure we get our funding, but that's what we'll be doing tomorrow. We are also in the process of setting our meal prices for next year, which is always a strategic fun time with Pontonian. And we are in the midst of creating our summer ESY bus routes, as well as trying to figure out how we are going to manage our transportation in the fall. All of that planning begins now. We're also trying to, I think I mentioned it last week, finalize all of our spending for this year, because at the June meeting, we passed a resolution to deposit monies into the various reserve accounts, and so that will be upcoming. So we'll make a recommendation for the total allocation, because the only time that the board can deposit money into any reserve account is done in June, and the only time that you can allocate from capital reserve is now during the budget presentation. And that's all I have for today.
Thank you. Any questions? Cheryl?
Just what you were talking about with Pontonian, is there any movement on the lunch balances? Are they getting better? Are they getting worse?
Yours truly, the debt collector. We send out monthly reminders of anyone who have high balances. Anytime that we get them, that they send out, I get probably between like a dozen and 20 emails back that families have no idea. And so it's a good reminder, comparative to other districts, we're not terrible. We still have money. I can get you the total that we have outstanding.
Anyone else? Okay, any liaison board committee reports? No? Okay, any correspondence?
None this evening.
Okay, open to the public for items on the agenda. I seek a motion as outlined in the Milford Board of Education bylaw 0167. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes. Any second? John, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anyone from the public? No? I seek a motion to close to the public. Joe, seconded by Stephanie, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Having the recommendation of the superintendent, I seek a motion for F24-25.231, .232, .233, .234, .235, .236.
Before you let me make a comment.
Of course.
I just want the board, I should have mentioned this in my report, I apologize, that these resolutions, 231, 232, 233, 234, and 235 were all the resolutions that were approved with the preliminary budget, but because the approval of the 25-26 budget has changes that were made during the public budget hearing, we need to pass all of these resolutions again. So I just want you all to be aware, and then the F2425.236 sort of has an asterisk because it's pending NJDOE approval. And so we discussed at the last meeting potentially making this a regular meeting and potentially not having May 14th, which it's looking like we're probably going to need to have May 14th because depending on what happens with the approval letter, we may need action again.
Okay. So I need a second. Stephanie, roll call.
Mr. Albro?
Yes.
Ms. Calderon?
Yes.
Mr. DeCosta?
Yes.
Ms. Coffinger?
Yes.
Mr. Luna?
Yes.
President Gomez?
Yes. Okay. Having the recommendation of the superintendent, I seek a motion for BA 24-25.79, .80, .81, .82, .83, .84. I need a second. Tony, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, educational programs and curriculum committee, Stephanie Coffinger.
Make a motion to seek approval for C24-25, .37, .38, .39, and .40.
Who's the second? Wait.
I'll second it, or if I can, but I need to abstain from 24-25.39 because my family gives out 2 scholarships.
All right, we'll have Cheryl second it. You and Jackie, right? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, personnel, having the recommendation of the superintendent, I seek a motion for P 24-25.109, .110, .111, .112, .113, .114, .115, .116, .117, .118, .119, .120, .121, .122, and .123. I need a second. John, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, yeah, this was a little confusing, these 2 pages. Okay, roll call?
Mr. Albro?
Yes.
Ms. Calderon?
Yes.
Mr. DeCosta?
Yes.
Ms. Coffinger?
Yes.
Mr. Luna?
Yes.
President Gomez?
Yes. Okay, finance and facilities committee, Cheryl Calderon.
I seek approval for F24-25, .231, .232, .233, .234, .235, .236, .237, .238, .239, .240, .241, .242, .243, .244, .245.
Need a second? Joe, all in favor? Opposed? Athletics co-curricular committee, I seek a motion for AC 24-25.18. Need a second? Cheryl, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Any old business? Any new business? Any board requests for additional information? Okay, I seek a motion to open to the public as outlined in New Milford Board of Education bylaw 0167. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes. Anyone from the public? See state your name and town.
Lynn LePage, 136 Clinton Ave. I actually just wanted to make a comment that it is pretty cool to see a former student being hired as a staff member. Makes me feel old, but it's also...
Did you have her?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good kid, right? Good kid.
And
Don't say
yes,
otherwise.
yes, and I'm very happy to hear that she's getting her master's. That's even better.
No, she masters and going for math, which is
Right,
great.
special ed math, right?
Special ed math and then certified at the middle school level. She is
The way to
like
go.
a unicorn or something.
Yeah, so it's really nice though to see like things come full circle like that.
And she wanted this job. Like she definitely was getting, I think, offered, she's very marketable, very good kid.
Good.
And she wanted to stay where she could walk to work. So, like, that's a plus.
Is she going to Berkeley? Well.
DEO.
Oh. So it's nice to see.
Okay, anyone else?
6th grade.
No? I seek a motion to close to the public. Seconded by Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Are we going to close this again? Okay. I seek a motion to adjourn. Tony, seconded by Cheryl, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, our next meeting will be May 14th. Thank you.